Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about not quitting your day job. This is like something that you usually use to like dissuade somebody from pursuing a creative career, but I think that it's a very valuable thing to keep in mind when you are pursuing a creative career. I know the dream, and it's still a dream for me, but the dream is to sustain yourself financially completely through your creative endeavors, like either streaming royalties or working on commissions. And while that's completely possible, I also feel that it's a lofty and dangerous goal to pursue. And again, I'm not saying that if that's like your dream, you shouldn't pursue it. Like everybody approaches this in a different way. I'm just saying that having a stable source of income, I feel, is a very important way to better grow yourself as an artist. And I think that it's important to understand that even though you have a day job, that doesn't define who you are. Like I have had a day job since I was like 16 or 17. I worked at Burger King, and then when I was in college, I worked at Arby's, and then I got a quote unquote real job doing e-learning stuff for a very long time. And I eventually ended up at a bank where I work now. And throughout all of that, I have also pursued writing music and making games and doing all of this other stuff because I feel that it's important for me to have that creative outlet. But I also feel that I wouldn't have been able to pursue my creative stuff as much as I have just like as an exploratory thing. Like if I was working on commissions, I have to kind of not be as experimental with the way that I approach and solve creative problems. And I think that having that day job in place allows me to, what's the best way of putting this? It gives me the flexibility to be more experimental with the stuff that I do, so I'm able to grow. There was a brief stint after college where I worked as a freelancer, and I did web page design. This was back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And like I couldn't really do anything very like experimental or revolutionary. Like the people that I made websites for were people that like repaired homes, or they worked in low-level government, or stuff like that, where things really can't be that zany. Like it's just kind of going through the routine of building the same thing again, except changing the images around and ensuring that they're happy with all of that. And I think that like having that kind of income stream is important and it's valuable, but it's also not the right way to grow as an artist, because you really have to do the same thing over and over. And there isn't really a lot of scope for innovation for kind of that sort of like work. And to a similar degree for me with music production, yes, I when I worked on video games, I did get a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more the ability to just kind of go in a direction that I'd like with it. But in the same token, I also am working within the constraints and the boundaries set by the game developer, and I wanted to respect those. So I couldn't like just go completely ham on certain parts of songs or in the album. And it's like there have been times and some albums where like I write music for it and they're just like, no, that doesn't work for this. And that sucks. And I'm able to reuse a lot of that for other projects. Notably, in the Still There soundtrack, there was a couple piano pieces that I tried that just didn't work with them. And those ended up in the Felt Cute Might Delete Later album. The Moments of Peace, like one of the last songs on the album, that little piano bit, that was originally made for Still There. And, it was rejected. And I thought that it was good and it reflected the mood of the album, but they didn't. And it's like, well, they're their client. That's their call. So yeah, I got a little sidetracked there. But the point that I'm trying to make is the financial security of having a day job is very important. And I think when it comes down to that, the primary goal is to find a day job that isn't soul crushing, which may or may not be easy to do these days. But the job that I have, I try to keep a very large separation between like my professional life at work and my personal life. But I also know that the job that I have gives me the flexibility to work from home most days. It gives me the flexibility to kind of, my role in particular is assisting team members with security requests and a bunch of other kind of routine maintenance things that would otherwise just sap a lot of their time. So a lot of my stuff is just messaging people, making sure that everything's like moving forward on the requests that I've made. So it's a lot more downtime. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't pay super great, but it's also like it's a really good role for me to have because it allows me to free up that mental space. I'm not spending all of my day thinking about like this job that's just like consuming my whole life. And that gives me a lot more momentum to focus on my creative stuff in the future. And I think that's really valuable, because otherwise, and I went back when I was talking about freelancing, I was working 3 jobs then. I had a day job. I had my hourly job at Office Max, where I worked at the copy center. I did like print stuff. And then I had a job, a contractual job, not a salaried job, but like contractual when they had work, doing e-learning development. I like took scripts and I turned them into, back when Flash was a thing, I turned them into Flash e-learning modules for places like Cabela's and Sears, and other retail stores. And then I was also working, trying to get freelancing, because I had just graduated from a graphic design school. I was trying to get a career doing like freelance web design work and graphic design work, and juggling all of that on top of trying to actually make music was near impossible. That was a really hectic couple months of my life, and I'm very glad that I survived it and I moved from it and I grew from it. But I think that it's also important to keep in mind that when you are taking on like contractual work like that, either as a day job or as a freelancer, it's like you're working for somebody else's ideas, and that doesn't give you the same flexibility as just doing stuff on your own terms. And this is something that I've been trying to grasp a lot more the past year or two, because I've been trying to wind down from doing a lot more contractual work and a lot more freelance work with like game developers and stuff, and just kind of focus on my own stuff. Because I as much as I loved working with other people, I felt like I was doing their projects and not my projects, and I really want to do my projects. And having a day job which requires me to work on other people's projects doesn't give me that mental flexibility to just kind of switch into the okay, now it's Ben mode. Like I can do stuff for me. It's not easy for me to make that adjustment, and maybe it's easy for you or other people, but for me, it's very difficult. So, I can't say that I love having a day job. And if I got to the position where I could quote unquote retire, I would probably end up with a part-time job somewhere just to keep that rhythm going, where it's like, you know, if I had a part-time job, I know that like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays or something, I know I have to get up at this time. I have to go do this. I really liked working at a print shop. I could definitely do that as like part-time, but like it gives you that rhythm and flow to have that schedule part of your week. And I think that is good to ground you into good habits. I don't really know if I had a point. I've been kind of rambling this whole time, but I think that it's just important to not, if you have a day job, just like you can keep that goal of quitting as aspirational, but you have to really make sure that you're ready to make that leap, going from something where it's kind of, it's semi-professional. It's not a hobby. It's something that you do for money, and it's something that you love to do, but it's also not something that you're throwing yourself into completely. And if you quit that day job, all of a sudden making art is your day job. And that can be overwhelming and scary. And it could be really the wrong move. And it's something that you have to really think about because, it's really tough to figure it out. And I don't know. It's something I've been thinking of lately because like, I really want to like work on my own stuff personally full time, but I also don't want to take commissions. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to have a day job. I don't want to work 9 to 5, but I also don't want to do other people's projects too. So, and also I'm not famous enough to sell an album and make, like 30 grand off of it. So, maybe my priorities just aren't aligned yet, but it'll get there. But anyway, this is me ruminating about a topic for like 11 minutes. Thank you so much for being a Patreon subscriber. I really do appreciate it. You are one of the few that do help me achieve that kind of liminal space where I don't really have, I have a day job, but I don't have to worry about commissions and all that other stuff. And that's very important to me. So thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. I genuinely do appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you have a wonderful Friday and a fantastic weekend. I'll talk to you in the next one. Be remarkable.